Hey guys, thanks for watching. Let me ask you something. What do you like better? Finding Native American artifacts or swinging a metal detector? Well, that's a toss-up for me. I can't pick one over the other, but about 3 years ago, I was using a metal detector and I found some copper Native American artifacts. Something called a rolled copper bead and something called a jingler. Now, I didn't realize that at first, but when I found out what they were, I had an epiphany. I could do the two things that I love most at the same time. And I live in a really, really good place to do that. I've got a lot of Native American history all around me. There were lots of villages in the area. And if I could get the right permission, and if that permission had stayed pure enough over the years, meaning not a lot of modern trash laying on top of stuff, well, I might find something special. That's what you're going to see in this video. So the story actually starts 3 years ago. That's how long this video's been in the making. 3 years ago, I got a permission at a site. And I hunted it a couple times, and I found some really interesting stuff. But it left me scratching my head for 3 years because I lost that permission. The land kind of changed hands, and there went my permission out the window. Well, with the help of a friend 3 years later, I'm back. And I was not at all disappointed with what I found. And I gotta tell you, pretty shocked at the history that I'm digging. I hope you enjoy this one. It's been a long time in the making. So here are the finds from 3 years ago at this site. Let's start with these right here. Now, I think a lot of metal detectors would say, that looks like maybe hardware off of an old desk. You can imagine some sort of like a little pull handle being connected here. But that's not what that is. Those are called thumb plates. And they would go on the top of the stock behind the hammer area of a Kentucky long rifle. Now, that is a very old gun. And I found two of them, and they're absolutely identical. Now, if you look closely, you can see it's kind of got a star pattern engraved. This one is harder to see, but the star pattern is there. So they're identical in design. Just a few feet away from where I found these, I found this, and this would be the trigger guard to the same type of musket. And all around this spot, lots of musket balls. Now, these weren't so closely found together. They were scattered out largely. And you remember, I'm hunting an Indian village. So the Native Americans absolutely would have owned these types of firearms. They would have had lead. They would have made their bullets. So it's not surprising to find some of this around. Most of them were dropped. A few fired. This isn't all that I found. It's probably about half of what I found. And then I found these two pieces, which I just attributed to being, some sort of fired musket ball. These aren't fired musket balls. They're something else. I just didn't realize it at the time. All right, that's the first hunt. I have serious questions about these for 3 years, but no real solid answers. Until I went back. I had 3 years to study about this site, and I had learned some things in the meantime. And this was a story that was getting ready to really come together for me. Well, this is just encouraging. Very first find is a big old fired musket ball. Yes, sir. That's what we're after. in that 3 years of waiting, I had time to dream up some items that I might find. I thought, we got a meeting of cultures here. The Native Americans have lead. Would they not use lead to make some very Native American type things? This is so cool. I love when this happens, when you dream of something that could be, and then you find it. Guys, I just dug something that I had in my head and I was hoping to find. So, I'm not going to show you around, but this site is Native American. And I have found game stones made out of pottery here. And I thought, you know, these bullets and this lead up in here, which I believe belonged to the Native Americans that lived here right before the village got destroyed in the late 1770s. I wonder if they use lead to make game stones. Look at that. Check it out. That is a lead game stone. That is so awesome. I just been looking for that piece. Now, I found a piece of pottery made into a game stone that had like a bird head inscribed on one side. I don't know that this has anything. Maybe not, but maybe something will pop out when we clean it. Love that piece. That just ties in Native American and the time frame that they were in here. Helps me confirm what I believe is the name of the spot that I'm at. I'll take that all day long. I was really excited to find that. But to be totally honest with you, I knew that in order to really have validation, that's what I had in my hand, I needed to find more. There needed to be others. There wouldn't just be one. Well, I don't believe it, but I just got another one. Check that out. That is so awesome. All right, gonna keep going. So I wonder if any of you are going, wait a minute. You just showed us two very similar items just a minute ago. I did. I dug two of these game pieces 3 years ago on that initial hunt, just didn't recognize them for what they were. Now, I've seen a lot of people dig these flattened round discs of lead, and they dig them a lot of times around Civil War camps, and they call them poker chips and everything. And somebody might say, how do you know this is Native American? Now, this is really, really, really important. If there was a home site anywhere near where I was digging, or a barn, or any sort of modern trash, I couldn't say for sure. A kid with a hammer could have pounded those out. I'm finding multiples of the same item in a very pure site. So pure, this is hard to believe, but in 2 days of digging, I only dug two pieces of modern material, a .22 bullet and a pull tab. At this site, if your detector makes a noise, you better dig it because it's old and good the vast majority of the time. These are Native American artifacts. Well, I just hit something I never thought I would dig. Check it out. It's part of a crow bill. That is awesome. Man, I'd love to find one of them intact. At least I believe that's what it is. Sure seems like it to me. I'll clean it up and take a closer look, but it's old. Well, there went the purity of Old History Hound's Native American site, right? I mean, when I think of crotal bells, I don't think of Native Americans. I think of a team of horses and a wagon, but not Native Americans. So even though I was really happy to dig a crotal bell, I've never dug one. I was a little troubled too. So I went to bed on it. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, I literally got out of bed and said, you idiot. A brass crotal bell? Are you kidding me? That's a perfect trade item. Just had to prove it. So I started doing some research, and it turns out the British, the French, the Spanish, the English, everybody that traded with Native Americans included crotal bells in a lot of those trades. Native Americans loved them. So I had to have a little hard evidence. So I was hoping to run across photos of Native Americans with these crotal bells, and I ran across one that was a little unexpected. Archaeologists uncovered a Native American grave, and in that grave were the crotal bells. So I was relieved. I'm still on a very pure site. This crotal bell, well, is a trade item. All right, a carved piece of lead. Check that out. Man, I was hoping that would have some dimples on it and be like an old dice or something, but just a big chunk. Maybe an old musket ball carved or something. I like it. Alright, so I just told you this is a Native American site, and I just found something else I've never found before. I thought it was a cigarette butt. You see it? Pipe stem. My trade pipe. That is awesome. Wow. Well, I've never found a piece of trade pipe either. That was a first. I love how all these finds point to that little narrow window in history where two cultures collide. You begin to see the products of Europe showing up in Native American villages. Well, as Paul Harvey would say, now it's time for the rest of the story. Maybe you caught it a little earlier in the video when I mentioned that the village had been burned. What happened there? I know the story behind this village. It was attacked and burned, destroyed in September of 1776 by the Continental Army. Why did that happen? Well, 1776 was a pretty important year for our country, as you well know. But one thing that kind of gets lost in the shuffle of history is a war known as the Cherokee American War. It started in 1776 and went all the way to 1795. The British had gone to the Native American tribes and enlisted their help in fighting the colonists. And the Native Americans viewed the colonists as the greatest threat to their lands, and rightly so. So they sided with the British. The Cherokee from this village and other surrounding villages began to attack east of the Appalachian Mountains. They attacked forts and homes, and, well, this demanded a response from the Continental Army. So, a man by the name of Griffith Rutherford, he marched his way into the Appalachian Mountains with 2,400 Continental troops, and they systematically burned and destroyed the Cherokee villages as they went, including the one that I'm on. Where were the British in all this? Well, they completely hung the Native Americans out to dry. They didn't help them at all. So a lot of Native Americans were killed, and a lot were taken as slaves and actually sent to the Caribbean. So we know the history of this site. We also know that after 1776, this village was never inhabited again. And fortunately for me, nobody ever decided to build a cabin on top of it. Once again, we're back to the purity of this site. Now, what I really wanted was one piece. One piece that pointed directly to the destruction of this village. But I truly didn't think I'd find it. Well, I was wrong. Check this out. All right, guys, I don't know what this is. It's heavy and brass. It's got that little nipple on it, and it's got that groove, which I don't feel like is broken. But I really need to clean it up to tell for sure. I don't know what that is. It's got a little bit of, I can't tell if that's like mica or plating on it. Oh no. It's heavy and solid. It feels old. Hopefully somebody knows, but I think it's something. absolutely something. That much I was sure of. By this point in digging this village, I was excited about this find, even though I had no clue what it was. And that's the beauty of the times that we live in. Reached out to social media to a well-known Facebook group called ID Me. Very knowledgeable people hang around that group, and I quickly had an answer that thrilled me. This piece is a pommel to a colonial era sword. Now, what in the world is that doing in this Native American village? Well, now that we know the story of what happened to the village, we can begin to speculate. But you got to be real careful when you start speculating, because you can go down the wrong road pretty quickly. I'm not going to tell you that this pommel belonged to old General Griffith Rutherford's sword. And I'm not even going to tell you that it belonged to maybe one of the members of that Continental Army that attacked that village. But I am going to tell you that it is directly related to this conflict between the colonials and the Native Americans at some point. You know, I thought about it later, and the Native Americans, they were out raiding and attacking forts and homes. They could have easily taken a sword and brought it back, and this pommel got lost at the village. Or it could have belonged to one of the Continental troops that attacked and burned it. We'll never know the answer, but I'm tickled to death to find it because it directly relates to that period of time, and it helps to tell the story of the village. But that's not all. There was something else that I had questions about, and without trying to speculate too far, we need to take a look at something else again real quick. All right, remember these pieces? Why am I finding these pieces like this? There's a couple possibilities. It is well known the Native Americans like to strip superfluous brass pieces from things like guns because they were shiny, and a lot of times they would be used as jewelry. But what are the odds that I'm finding two of these in such close proximity? Well, being that the village was attacked and burned, I guess it's possible. And then the trigger guard. You know what else is possible? When the village was attacked, I would say very likely that the Native American muskets were destroyed on the spot. It's very possible that these pieces were what was left after those muskets were bashed and broken. The sword pommel, well, don't know, but we know that it is directly related. I love these pieces. I'm going to keep them together. I'm going to tell this story as often as I can, as best as I can, because I think it's worth telling. It just tickles me to death to be able to metal detect the place and to be able to tell such a specific story. It doesn't happen so often that you're able to do that, and I love it when it does. If you like these old stories, I'm going to ask you to do something I don't hardly ever do on my videos, but hit the subscribe button. That helps me out, and what also helps me out is if you share the video. If you like the story, share it with your friends. Hopefully there's going to be a lot more stories like this in the future. We've not seen the last of this site. As long as my permission holds out, I'm going to be back. Hopefully there's some really cool Native American artifacts that are going to be coming out. Maybe they'll have a little story that goes along with them too. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.